All right, so it's 7 o'clock now. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes because there might be a few more people joining, and then we'll get started. All right, so it's 7:03 nearly. So yeah, I'm unmuted. So I think we can get started. I'm just also going to start the recording. Just waiting for it to be confirmed. Excellent. Okay, good. 1 second. Here you go. Okay, sorry, just had YouTube still open and could suddenly hear myself. All good now, so we can get finally started. Thank you all for joining to our user group this evening. It's all very Teams focused today. So first we'll have Brennan talking about Teams room systems, and then once he's done, then we'll have a very short 2-3 minute break, and then I'll continue with talking about how we can actually leverage search to find content within Teams effectively and quickly. And with that, I'm immediately going to hand over to Brennan to start presenting. Excellent.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Renee. Let me know if my screen is shown. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, excellent. So thank you again for joining. And what I'm going to cover for this next 20 minutes is best practices for managing Teams Room. I'm assuming you are already somewhat familiar with what Teams Room is. So I won't go into a lot of detail about what it is. I'll cover more on the management best practices. And because there's a lot to cover, right? So 20 minutes is not enough to cover all. So this really is part one of the best practices of managing Teams Room. And hopefully in the next user group, I can go on to talk about part two. So with that, I'll just jump straight in. So just in case, just a recap, right? In case you don't know, Microsoft Teams Room is what you would install in a meeting room. Okay, it's actually able to have bring the meeting experience that's Teams based and brings the high definition video, audio, and content sharing into those meeting rooms. Right? And it can be from different sizes, from small to medium to very large rooms as well. Key components of a Teams Room system would include things like a touchscreen control panel. It's something usually that you sit on the meeting room tabletop. And then so it also consists of a compute unit, usually a PC, a small PC that's mounted at the back of the display. And then you've got the Teams Room application or the software that runs on the PC that really provides all of the experience that users have. It may come with certain docks or extenders or cables. And of course, you have to include peripherals, such like the cameras, the microphones, and speakers. Okay, all these help to bring the whole system together as a meeting room solution. And today, Teams Room supports up to a maximum of 2 screens of any size that you want, and also allows for HDMI content input for content sharing, right? And there are really a lot of devices out in the market today, right? And if you go to the link that was shown in the earlier slide, you see the whole list of them, right? Room systems, there's a lot that you can choose from, depending on your preference and your room sizes. And so they all pretty much differ only in terms of the physical form factor. You know, some is actually have the touch controller mounted on top of the PC. Some are separate. You know, some have different types of screen sizes, touch screen sizes. But the software running on it is pretty much identical, right? So the experience is the same. It's only in terms of different hardware components, different form factors, and give you and the kind of different vendors that provide the support for that. So let's move into how you manage the Teams Room solution, right? So setting up the Teams Room system is not difficult, right? If you follow the user guides or the administrator guides, you should be able to get it up and running fairly easily. There's a couple of things that you want to do immediately once you set up the Teams Room system. So these are what we call the post-setup tasks. First thing you want to do for security reasons, please change the admin password, right? Otherwise, the whole world knows your admin password, okay? So you want to change the password, and you can do that either using the GUI or you can use the PowerShell command that you see there to change the password. Another thing you want to do is to either remove or disable the local admin, okay? That is again enabled by default. And if your Teams Room system is not joined to an Active Directory, you don't want to disable it. But if it is joined to Active Directory, then yes, it's better to remove the local admin for security reasons and just use your domain administrator to log in. Okay. Now, joining the joining the system to Active Directory is fairly straightforward. Again, you can do that using the GUI, the settings, or you can use PowerShell to do it. And of course, you want to rename the computer. Also, the first thing that you do, right, to make it more identifiable and people can know what exactly this device is. So, and then One of the important things to take note of is that the MTR, even though it's running Windows 10 Enterprise and it's joined to your domain, it's not your typical desktop computer. Okay, so you don't want to just apply the exact same management tools and techniques to the MTR just as you would your user laptop or your user desktop. Okay, so we'll run through some of the things to look out for in this presentation. But there are actually 6 ways that actually Microsoft supports to manage your MTR or your Microsoft Teams room. That is using Active Directory or Azure AD, Intune, Microsoft Endpoint Manager, System Center Configuration Manager, and group policies. Okay, and I'm not going to be able to go through all of it in part 1, so I'll just cover some of it here to get started, and then hopefully next round we can cover the other management methods. So let's start with Azure AD. Now it is important to realize that you don't necessarily have to join your MTR into Active Directory. Right? In fact, I've been using my MTR as a work group computer for the longest time. It works fine, and because I don't really need to have that kind of control, that because I don't have a lot of these to manage, right? But if you do have a lot of MTRs to manage, it's actually good to actually enroll it in in Active Directory. So there are a number of ways that you can join into Azure AD. One is you can actually just join the Azure AD from the settings page on the device itself, right? Another way is to use the Windows Configuration Designer to create a Windows 10 provisioning package. So that can actually bulk join multiple or a large number of MTRs into Azure AD at one go. A third way is to use hybrid Azure AD join, right? Which is another way where if you have an on-premise AD that is synchronized into Azure AD, you can use the Azure AD Connect to configure that to allow the MTR to automatically join into Azure AD as well, right? So this is how you would join this device into AD, and I provided a link there to actually show you can read more in detail how you can actually join the MTR into Azure AD. Now, another things to want you to do, I mentioned earlier on that you want to rename your device. And it's actually good practice to actually name your device, the MTR device, with a prefix so that people know where it is, right? Personally, I don't like the MTR-serial. I prefer the MTR-location or the MTR room name. So people know, where this device is located, which meeting room it's referring to. Okay, so having a prefix would actually be very good. And not only that, the prefix also allows you to then create dynamic Azure AD groups. So that will allow you to actually easily create those inclusion and exclusion of policies in your Intune portal, right? Instead of having to manually add your MTR devices into the Azure AD policies, if you rename them with a prefix, then you can actually use dynamic AD groups to actually automatically add those devices into that group, and therefore it will actually be included into or excluded into those policies in Intune. Okay, so Intune is important because then you can use those naming prefixes to actually control the policies. And at the same time, you also want to create dedicated OUs. So you put those accounts for those Teams Room devices into specific OUs and create specific groups, security groups for those accounts, so that you can then configure it in your device, Intune device configuration and your conditional access policies. Right, as you can see on the left, you've got 2 groups there, right? One is a dynamic group, which is in green, and one is a static group, which is in red. Okay. Personally, I think the best practice is to create a dynamic group so that you can easily try to manually add those devices into a static group. And then these groups will then allow you to block your inheritance on your OUs, on those OUs that's designed for these Teams Room accounts and devices. What do you want to block? You want to block basically conditional access policies, because that's usually not applicable for Teams Room device. Those are more for user laptops, okay, or even mobile devices. And also you want to exclude things like MDM device configuration policies that are not applicable for room systems. And also you want to disable multi-factor authentication for those rooms itself, right? Because these are really not required for those Teams Rooms devices, because this doesn't belong to any particular user. It is a common device that's sitting in a meeting room using a common account and it's not owned by any particular person. So having those GPOs, having those OUs in groups will allow you to then exclude the devices from GPOs and in tune policies, which might otherwise actually interfere with the proper functioning of the MTR device. Another thing you want to look at, apart from group policies, in group policies, is actually the QoS, right? Teams Room is actually very heavily dependent on audio and video and content sharing. So all these are actually consist what we call media traffic, right? And media traffic works best when you have a QoS policy in your network. So to have a reliable and high quality media, you want to enable QoS in your network, right? Which actually should include not just the MTR device itself, but also a comprehensive design should be undertaken, applied to endpoints, switches, and your routers. Okay, QoS settings can be configured on your Windows servers and your PCs using the policy. So on the Teams Admin Center, you will find a settings in the portal that will allow you to actually turn on QoS for your Teams client, right? And you can see that on the diagram on the right-hand side. So I won't go into detail, but you can easily find this in the admin portal. And you can actually set here, like you see here on the screen, turn on the QoS for real-time traffic, and then specify the port ranges. Okay, so this will actually insert the QoS markers for all the real-time media traffic for your Teams clients. Okay, it will also actually enable communication to the Teams transport relays using the different UDP ports for even better media performance. Okay, so you want to use those recommended ports that's there, right? Of course, you can choose to specify your own ports if you want, but those ports that you see there are those that are actually recommended by Microsoft. So on those ports itself, you can see that the first range from 50,000 to 50,019, those are actually for audio, and it supports mostly UDP, but if you need to use UDP, TCP is also possible. And the DSCP, recommended DSCP value is 46. It essentially belongs to the expedited forwarding class. Right? For audio, it is taking the range from 50,020 to 50,039. And the DSCP value recommended is 34, which is assured forwarding, belonging to the DSCP class AF41. And finally, application or screen sharing, which is like what I'm doing right now, should take the range from 50,040 to 50,059. Again, the DSCP value is 18, which belongs to the AF21 DSCP class. Okay, so if you follow these guidelines, you're in a good position to enable QoS in your environment. Now, you also want to apply QoS on the clients itself, so that is using the group policy. Okay, you can refer to that URL there to have the full instructions. But not only that, the Windows clients or the Teams clients, you also want to apply it to, like I mentioned earlier on, the QoS at the network layer. So, for example, your network switches, your Wi-Fi access points, your routers, etc. Because if any of those devices are not supporting QoS, then it sort of becomes the weakest link, and the whole QoS, network becomes affected. Right. So to really make QoS effective across the network, you want to apply it not only on the Teams clients, on the mobile devices, but also on all your network equipment as well. Okay, and you can find more details again on the link that's provided there. So I won't go into detail. Next topic is about updates, right? So one of the things to be very careful of is that the Microsoft Teams Room doesn't support all the versions of Windows that's out there today. Okay. As you see in the table below, certain versions are actually not recommended, not supported, and some are still under validation. So the current supported Windows version is actually 1903, 1803, or 1909. Okay, the other versions are actually not recommended, and some of them will actually will render your Teams Room to have problems. Okay, so the good news is that by default, the App Store has a block. Right, to the App Store running on the Windows MTR solution system has got a block in place to prevent updating Windows to an unsupported version. But you got to make sure that the Windows, the Teams app running on your MTR is actually updated to the new version, right? Because the older versions may not have the correct blocking. So what is recommended to actually have for a brand new installation of MTR, if you just got it and you got it out of the box, to actually go into the control panel and disable updates by pressing on the pause updates option. Okay, and then go back into the system to update the Teams application and then turn the Windows OS updates back on. That will ensure that it will only update to the Windows version that is supported. Okay. And so how do you actually update? How does the device actually update the Windows and the Teams application? Well, it actually reboots itself every night at 2:30 a.m. The process starts at 2 a.m. It downloads, it checks for whatever updates that might be available, and then it actually pauses and waits to actually apply the updates, and then it finally reboots itself at 2:30 a.m. Okay, so that's what happens automatically. This helps in optimizing the resources and install all the pending updates, and both updates for Windows and the Teams Room application are applied. Okay, so do take note of this situation. You don't want to power down your machine at the end of the day, because then you will never get the updates. Okay, because 2 a.m. is the time where it actually starts to look for updates. Now, if you want to manually update the Teams MTR, you can do so as well, because the Teams Room application is actually a store signed app, which means it can be updated by the store. In fact, that's how I updated my MTR just a few days ago when I got the latest version up there. I went in as the administrator, started up the Microsoft Store, and then lo and behold, there is an update for the Skype Room system. Even though it's this Teams Room system, it's still called Skype Room system for some reason. Okay, hopefully it probably will change in the future, but for now, Skype Room system is the name, and you just need to click on the update option, and it will update itself. Okay, another way to update it is to actually manually update the download the MSI file, right? And you see the link over there is actually the Teams Room installation package. Once you download it, you can actually unzip it and put the file into a share, and then run the PowerShell command that you see at the bottom there. Right, that will actually update the system manually, and you should be able to get the latest Teams Room application once it reboots. Right, so there are many ways to update it. Obviously, the easiest way is to let it automatically update, but you got to make sure your device is up and running at 2 a.m. in the morning. If not, then you can go ahead and do manual updates as you see over here. So finally, let's talk about resetting the Teams Room. Right, from time to time, you may want to reset it for certain reasons. For example, if the system is not running well, you may need to perform a factory reset, or somehow you have missed a lot of updates, right? And your Teams Room application is so old that it's unable to update to a current version, or there is or other reasons, right? And there is a tool that Microsoft provides, what we call a Microsoft Teams Room recovery tool, to assist with repairing or resetting the device. And I provide the link there for you to actually go in and read more about how it goes. I'll cover the process very quickly in the next few slides. So what you want to do is download the Teams Room installation package, the same package that I mentioned earlier on for the manual updates. You put it into a USB stick, and then you log in as the administrator, and you run this recovery tool.ps1. Okay, this tool will allow you to give you an option to select the repair. How it looks like is this, right? When you run this, right, you download the package, okay, and then you run the recovery tool.ps1, and you want to select option 2, because option 1, which is keep my files, doesn't actually do a very thorough job in resetting the device, and there are actually some known issues with that option. So the recommended option for a factory reset is actually to choose option number 2, which is remove everything, remove all your personal files, apps, and settings. And then you will ask to perform the Windows reset, and then it will just ask you to confirm, right? And then you just click on the next, okay? And then click on reset, and then the system will actually do the necessary work, and it will reboot. Once it reboots, lo and behold, you have a almost brand new MTR system that is updated to the newest version and is factory reset to our box defaults, right? But do take note that the whole process takes quite a long time and reboots several times. So just be patient, okay? So in the case where the system is, you can't even get into to log in as an administrator to run that command, and you can't even log in at all, then it's what we call a catastrophic recovery. In that case, you will need to contact your device manufacturer, depending on who you bought it from. They will provide you the tools to actually do a factory image to the device, right? It's important to contact the correct vendor that you bought the system from, because each vendor has a specific image to make sure that the proper drivers and tools are properly installed to make sure that it works well in that particular MTR device. Okay, so this is where you would pick up the phone and call your device manufacturer that you bought it from and perform your catastrophic recovery, and hopefully it will resolve the problem. So that's all I have for part one. Okay, so and hopefully it's been helpful, and hopefully, and again, I'll happy to answer any questions that anyone might have, and again, I hope to continue with part two in the next user group session. So, are there any questions before I hand over to Renee for to start off the next section? Do feel free to unmute yourself or type your question into the chat window. Looks like there's no questions. All right. Okay, so thank you for sitting in, listening to this first part. So I'll hand this time to Renee. So over to you, Renee.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Like I said, we're just going to have a very short break. So it's 7:24 now. So 2-minute break, then we'll continue. All right, then I think we can get started. So I'm going to talk about how you can actually leverage and use search within Microsoft Teams to find content that you're looking for efficiently. So the idea is not just that you're trying to find something, but that you actually think about, how can I actually use search in such a way that I'm not just blindly trying to find where that content is, but maybe actually use some of the tools that are available to have a smarter search and hopefully get the results that you're looking for much quicker and sooner. So the scenario that we are looking at is that obviously you're using Teams in your company. There's a lot of content already available in Teams. There are a lot of teams within Teams. There are a lot of channels in those individual teams, and you are a member of a lot of those teams. So you're not just a member of one or two teams, but really a lot of them. Plus, there are a lot of channels actually available. So some of those teams are department teams. Some of them are project specific. Some of them are for initiatives. Some of them are for other purposes. So really a lot of different teams, different purposes, a lot of channels. There are a lot of conversations going on in those channels. There are also different chats that you are a member of and participating in. So you're talking to your colleagues within the chat functionality in Teams. Really, there's a lot of content within the environment. Plus, there's also a lot of files that you actually uploaded before, that other people uploaded, that are within Teams. So there's a lot of content basically available. And what you're now trying to figure out is how can you find that content in there efficiently? So not only do you think, yeah, I'm just going to try to find something within all of Teams, but you quickly want to find, for example, a recent conversation that happened within a channel. You know, there was something discussed about a specific project, for example. You're trying to find that conversation, but you can't. You're trying to use it via search, but then the keywords that you use, they provide you too many search results. How can you quickly find that conversation now? Next, also, maybe you want to find a chat conversation. So basically, you had a conversation with one of your colleagues, but the issue is that you're talking a lot with each other. An example, I've been talking with a colleague basically on a daily basis, and I remember we talked about something. And it took some time until I found that specific conversation that I was trying to find, because our chat history was very long. So how can I find that specific conversation very quickly? That's another thing we're going to look at. And lastly, we'll also look at how you can actually find then obviously file content. So a presentation, a Word document, a PDF, something that was uploaded to Teams before that is getting used in Teams. We want to find that efficiently. Yeah, that's actually already more or less most of the content. So the idea is that sorry, not all of the content presentation, because we're going to move over to the demo. The idea is then that you're trying to find maybe the needle in the haystack. Maybe the needle is very big, maybe the needle is very small. But the idea is really you're trying to find something small within a huge amount of content, and that's what we're now gonna try to do. We're going to leverage actually some of the search functionality in a smarter way. So I'm not just trying to search and hope, among those 500 search results, maybe you can find the one that we're looking for, but rather we're going to look at how we can actually leverage contextual search. If we know roughly where we're trying to find the content, we're trying to use the filters then to narrow down potential search results. And last thing is we're going to use search modifiers then to again, not just try to find something, but use a smarter search query to actually then find that specific content. That's already the end of the mini slide deck that I had. I'm going to jump over right into Teams. As you can see, I'm a member of a range of teams actually here. There's a lot of conversations going on. And what I can do is obviously in the search box on top, if I now try to find something about a project discussion that happened recently or so, I can actually go in and say, I'm going to look for, I don't know, there was something about testing that happened recently. So let's actually just look for test. And we can see now, there's a couple of search results now. Not too many, luckily, in that case. So I can hopefully quickly find what I'm looking for. So I can see, for example, there's the testing that I might have looked for. Or down here, there's this one. So that one was not too bad. What if there's a lot more? So if I look for a project, then we can see suddenly, there's suddenly a lot more search results, and it's all over the place. So I can see, for example, here, different people talking about project. I can see, it's within Contoso Finance, the team, in the Finance Review channel. I can see there's some conversations that I had with others. I can see, again, within the retail team, within the Mark 8 project team, and there could be a lot more actually happening here right now. Let me just actually go quickly this, okay. What I want to do now is, I know, for example, I'm looking for content not all across teams, but I'm looking for maybe project budgets. Let me just actually refine that. Project budgets, that already helped a lot. So I know, for example, hey, adding more keywords helps with our search, obviously. That's already quite good. So if I now look for project, move away here, project test, it's not going to find any results. Let me just actually show you again. If I look for a project here, and we've got, for example, where is that thing? issues. That's the one I was looking, not test, but project issue. Trying to find that. We can see, for example, yes, that actually helps because within, for example, this conversation over here, within the digital assets web channel inside our Mark 8 project team, obviously, there was a discussion that happened here. And clicking on it, I can see, for example, then project was mentioned in this conversation plus issues. So I was looking for issue, but that was the one I was looking for was found. That's quite good. So again, simple thing, adding more keywords, there's a chance that you will find it more easy. If I'm now looking, for example, for report, I can do similar thing, finding something here. I've got different reports in different areas. Let's just assume that actually I'm not having just, what do we have here, like 6 search results, but maybe it's going to find 60 results. There's a lot more, but I'm looking for, hey, I'm looking for a report. Let me just try to get rid of this one here on top. Unpin. Excellent, good. What I want to do now is, I know, for example, I'm looking for a conversation about a report that happened in, for example, sales and marketing. Now I can find content from Contoso Finance, again, from sales and marketing, from retail, potentially a lot more. I only want it, for example, within Contoso Finance here, so I want to narrow it down. What I can do is, for example, I can say, for example, under more filters, I can try, for example, to say under team, I'm going to know, oh yeah, I'm going to actually only try to find this within, forgot which one I just said. Let's say, for example, sales and marketing, going to filter, and actually that's working quite nicely. So among those search results that we've seen just now, obviously applying a filter helps a lot. So I can narrow it down here if I roughly know where I'm trying to find it, for example. I can also then change, for example, again, more filters. I can say, for example, oh, I know, for example, Miriam was talking about it, and no surprise here, our filters are actually working. So that's actually one strategy that we can actually use. We're finding content, and once we've got the content, then we actually start to refine it even further. Another approach is actually, I'm just going to clear those filters. I'm going to actually now do one thing. I'm going to go into Teams over here. I'm going to go into my sales and marketing team. So I'm in here, sales and marketing. I'm within the general channel. What I can do is now is, for example, I can press Control F on Windows or Command F on a Mac. And what happens is, you can see here the search bar on top changed a bit. So now it actually changed from the channel search to the context-specific search. So now I'm actually within the general channel, and it's going to try to find here within channel something that I'm looking for. So you can see here at the bottom, there's not actually a lot of happening. If I try to find for report here, it's not going to find anything because nothing here was discussed. But what I can do is, let me just clear that again. No, go back to Teams, go back to monthly reports, for example. Going to try the same thing again. Let me just do this, report. And here we can see now, for example, it gives me the search results again. I don't have any filters that I can apply here right now, but I know, for example, monthly reports is where I'm actually looking inside, and only within monthly reports. So I don't see content from Contoso Finance or anything else. I really only find content from this specific channel. So what's happening when I press Control F? Let me just actually clear the search box on top. So generally speaking, as you can see here, for example, you can type in your keywords. Look for messages, files, and more. But it also says or type / for a list of commands. So when I type / you can see there's a range of commands available that I can use now to do things up here in the search box. So I can change my status, for example, to be right back or to busy. I can see my recent files. I can join the team. I can do a lot of things plus the find that we've just seen. So I can now select find or type find. Press space, and what happens next is, for example, it tells me, okay, which channel or chat do you actually want to search? So again, for example, I'm inside the monthly reports channel. So I can now, for example, say, yeah, I want to search within monthly reports. I can actually also say, I want to search within Contoso Finance Review. So I can go search for that channel and say, for example, I'm going to look for something over there. And same thing again, so /find finance review, narrowing down to this particular channel. I'm going to try to find my report. And here's, for example, maybe that's what I've been looking for, the expense report form. Very good. What you can see is actually I'm looking only within the channel, in the channel conversation here. So I'm not searching all of teams. What it does not include, for example, is, for example, content within the files tab within finance review. So I can see, for example, we've got our expense report form here. But what it doesn't actually show me here, for example, I cannot apply any filters or do anything else here with it. Let me just actually change that one quickly again. Let me just actually go over to Contoso Finance Review. What if, again, I'm going to search for report. Same thing again. I'm here. I've got my list here of all my messages. I could apply my filters that we've just seen. I'm actually looking now for a file. So I'm not looking for a channel conversation. I'm looking for a file that contains report. So what I can do is I can obviously click here on files, and then I can see, for example, there's a range of files here now available. Again, there's a lot of content. Where is it? Can't find it. And funny thing, no surprise here, I can again do a filter and say, folks, I only want to find files within my Contoso Finance team. I could even select or narrow it down by a specific file type, but let's just search within Contoso Finance and see, oh, great, there's actually 2 expense report forms that it found. So I can click on it and have a look at that particular file here right now that I want to use. So what I did is I knew it's somewhere there, cannot maybe find it, so I'm just trying to use the search, filter, and narrow it down. Now I was also talking about how you can actually use the same thing within chats. So I know, for example, my chat conversation history, as you can see here with those people, is not very long. It's very easy to actually find something here. But what if, again, assuming my conversation here is very long, same thing again, if I press Control F, the context immediately here changes from a channel search within Teams to that context-specific search within the current chat with Alex Wilbur. And then I can do, for example, oh, I remember I was looking for a review, can try to find it. Again, obviously the demo here I'm doing is not very extensive here. There's only a little bit of conversation that happened. But you can see basically in the results, we can see now, please give final review, and I can click on it again, jump to this particular conversation here that I had with Alex at some point. So even though it might be buried in a long conversation history, I can more easily and quickly now find that conversation. Now, if I actually also do this one here again, I'm looking for a review. What I can also then see, we can see now, okay, that happened here somewhere. I can now again say, for example, I know it happened with Alex Wilbur, and we can see now, oh, that's actually in the conversation with Alex Wilbur. And again, that's also another way how I can actually jump into that conversation and find it. So again, you can approach it from different ways, either go where you know that content is and then search there by using that contextual search, or if you're not quite sure where the content is, start searching for it first and then actually use the filters, for example, to narrow it down even further. And we can see, as mentioned, we can use the messages here. We can also look at different files. So we can see, for example, there are different files that have been uploaded before that contain the keyword review, and again, also similar filters. I can also actually search for people. Again, there's nobody with the name review. If I just search for Alex, as you can see here, I can actually also find people that way. So I'm not going to talk much about the people search in here. That's relatively simple, obviously, but you can see basically there are possibilities here as well. Now, the other thing I want to quickly talk about again is that is, for example, using the search modifiers. So we've seen earlier, for example, what did I look for? Project budget. I think it was not from Alex. And we can see, for example, oh, that way if I look for project budget, just a space in between, nothing else in there, I get 2 search results. I can now actually put it into quotation marks to say I want to search for this particular phrase. So I know I'm not just looking for anything that contains project and budget somewhere, but really it should be the term project budget. And it doesn't find it actually. That's not what I was expecting. Let me just check. Project budgets. That's why budgets. So obviously the exact term that I'm looking for, project budget, was not found because we've got here project budgets. That brings me also to the next thing I want to do, and I want to get rid of this one up here. If I change this now here to project budget, something's happening here. Let me just unpin. Let me just move this a bit down then. Okay. So what I can do is now is I'm going to remove the S again. I'm not going to find anything, obviously, but I can use the asterisk now, and it's going to try to find project budget plus anything happening afterwards. So obviously project budget, the term has to be there, but there can be a lot more happening. So using the asterisk here as the wildcard, and then I can find it. Also, if I look, for example, for budget up here, we can see then there's a lot that I'm finding here right now, including budgets and budgeting. So you can see if I just look for one word, it's easily getting found, multiple words easy, but once I use the quotation marks for that exact search term, again, that will be the exact term. So I would have to use the asterisk again to provide better search results here, or probably find what I'm looking for. Another thing I could actually look for is I could look for project or review. Not going to find anything here right now. I think I'm getting my query wrong. Let's skip that part actually. Thought that would work. Okay, issue was obviously it was in lowercase. So as you can see now, project or review in uppercase or. That's the one thing I forgot to do is actually, we can see now here, for example, there was a conversation here that happened. No mention at all of review, but again, it was found because I'm looking for project or review. So one of those has to be in the conversation or in the chat, basically. And I can see, yeah, we've got project here. If I go into that other conversation, you can see again, there's projects. Very good. I can go in here, for example, we've got a review meeting. So we got the term review here that was found. So it finds all of them. What I can also do is obviously combine it. If I know I'm looking for project budget with an asterisk or review. Review. Can't remember where the project budget. Here it is. There it is. That's the one I'm looking for. So you can also combine it, obviously. So you don't have to use one of those functionalities. So those search modifiers obviously work with each other. So you can easily then actually find it. Plus there are a few more modifiers that you can use. I'm not going to go into too much detail here right now. That's already quite helpful when you know project budget, or using that or keyword then would actually help. I could also combine it with an and review. That wouldn't find anything here right now, obviously, because the project budget conversation, the only one that we have, actually doesn't contain anything related to review. If I just say project and review, we can see that's what we can find here. A project review meeting, plus if I remove this, we can see the same thing. So obviously having multiple words chained, not chained together, but put together into a search box implicitly basically uses the and modifier. So the or modifier is obviously the better one that you could be using. All right, so that's how you can actually try to find that content within Teams much faster, what we've seen here right now. Now we're nearing what I actually wanted to demo, so it was a bit faster than I anticipated. I think I've been talking a lot faster, and the demo was also a bit quicker. Now, quickly summarizing it again, just bring back again here. this slide. So when you're using search, the idea is then that you try to think about before you actually search for it, how do you approach your search so that the results that you're getting will help you find that content that you're looking for. First of all, leverage the contextual search. If you know where your content is, for example, within a specific channel or so, try to go to that channel, try to find within that channel only at the beginning. If you don't know where it is, or if you get too many search results and you want to narrow it down, use the filters, leverage them. We just saw, for example, let me just bring something up again quickly. We saw, for example, that we can use the team and the channel filters, for example, in the messages, but I can also then, for example, say I want to use, for example, a specific subject that I know, or maybe I can actually say, I know that something happened, for example, in the last week somewhere. So leverage those filters as they are available to you. And lastly, use the search modifiers then to use better queries. Obviously, when you're trying to find something, it's not just about finding the content, applying filters or so, but also using smart queries. If you know that you're looking for one of two keywords, you don't have to do one search and then another, but you can actually combine that and do that or search, for example, or you can use, for example, that use the quotation marks to specify the exact phrase that you're looking for. Or again, use the wildcard, for example, as well, then to provide a bit more flexibility then. Okay, so that means then we are nearing the end now of our shorter user group this evening. Are there any questions right now? Anything you want to know, ask, or bring up right now? Quickly coming back into the call to check the chat. All right. You can also unmute yourself if you want to ask. If not, we're going to finish our, again, shorter user group for today. We're planning to have another user group in August. Details will be published within the next maybe in a couple of days or within the next week usually. So we're going to announce it relatively quickly. We'll not just have Brandon coming back again to Brandon, you're going to have your second session, right? Follow-up. Yeah. Sorry, are you muted? Can't hear you right now. Okay, maybe it's my audio device that's not working. Not sure. Brandon will be back next time at least, so that's the good news. We are also likely going to have some more speakers next time, international speakers. So the idea is then there's not just us local speakers presenting to you regularly, but we're also trying to bring in some speakers, for example, from Europe or the US then to present to us as well. So we're hoping to find some more interesting topics for you then, and hope to see you again next time. So again, follow us in Meetup, check out what we're publishing there. So more user groups, not just for Office 365 and related content coming, but also obviously for Azure, for AI and more. Check out our regular events. We'll have more things scheduled in the upcoming weeks again and later as well. Again, given the current situation, everything will be online, so you can join us from anywhere, from your mobile device, from home, from wherever you are. You can have your dinner with your family at home, and hopefully they won't be too interrupted by you attending sessions. But hope to you soon again, or next time again, and thank you for joining us this evening.